everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm gonna be making a couple skirts because I've been wanting to for a long time, but I've never really got around to doing it, and because I'm moving to Italy in a few days, which I can't believe I'm actually gonna move there. But either way, these skirts will be a great addition to my wardrobe, plus I'll get to use some of my fabric that I have here so that I don't have to bring as much over there. And yeah, which I don't really know even if I'm going to bring a lot of my fabric because I don't know if I'll have space. But yeah, either way, I'm gonna make these skirts and I hope they turn out cute. So the first skirt was going to be a tiered skirt, and I wanted it to have three tiers, so I cut 6 inch long, well, wide, I guess, 6 inch wide strips. And I just kind of used all of this red fabric as much as I had. The first tier was about the size, a bit bigger than my waist, and then the second tier was double that. The third tier was bigger than that. I didn't really measure it. And then, but for the first tier, I added 2 inches to it so that I could fold over the top and turn it into a waistband to put the elastic through so that I don't have to create a separate strip that I have to sew on to make a waistband. And then at this point, for some reason, my pin cushion disappeared, which means I had no pins, and that's a big problem when you're sewing because I need my pins. And so I just ordered some more, and so I had all these pins, but I needed a pin cushion, so I made a pin cushion. And then I sewed each tier into a loop using French seams and then used basting stitches at the top of each tier so that I can gather it onto the bottom of the last tier, and then just gathered it up and sewed it to the one on top. And then after I did that, I tried it on and I still had some extra fabric left, so I decided to make it the fourth tier because I did kind of want that longer vibe look. And yeah, so that's exactly what I did. And then I just hemmed the bottom, added in the elastic, and then it was done. And ta-da, this is the finished skirt. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I would have liked to have more volume on the last tier, but it's okay, it's all the fabric I have. Okay, so now I'm going to make another skirt using this fabric, which I've had for a very long time, and I got it to make a skirt, but then I was like, maybe I should make a top with it. But now I have an idea of what kind of skirt I want to make. So yes, it's what I'm gonna do. And it's gonna be a different type of skirt than I've made before. It's not gonna have any elastic for the waistband. So hopefully it turns out good. I started off by making a template for the top portion. The front and back will have slightly different templates, but they're pretty similar. What I did was take the measurement of my waist, divide that in half, add 1 inch, and then divide that measurement in half. And then that was going to be the width of the template. And then the length, since the front is pointed, I just measured how far down I wanted it to go. And then up to how far down I wanted to go to my hip for the front part. But the back part is pretty easy because it's just how far you want it to go down to your hip, and it just that same length all the way across. And then I cut one of the front piece and one of the back piece each on the fold and sewed that together just to make sure, it fits good and everything. So this is what it looks like once I sewed one side right here. Then closed, it looks like this. Then this is the front, this other side is the back. And then now I am going to make another one that's exactly the same as this, except I'm going to sew the other side. So for the next one, I'm gonna sew this side and leave this side open. So this is what I have now. And I'm gonna use one side as the facing and sew the tops together on these. So the top is all pinned together, matching up this seam. And I'm just gonna sew this down now. Now it was time to go on to the bottom of the skirt. And to make these pieces, I decided that I wanted it to be kind of like a high to low skirt. So the hem would be higher in the front and lower in the back. And since the top of the skirt for the front of the skirt goes lower, I had to make sure to subtract about 2 inches from the length of the skirt. So in the center front, I made it about 20 inches long, and then on the side I made it, I think, 22 inches long for the front, and then for the back I just made it 25 inches all across. And the measurements didn't exactly match up here, but it was fine because I was gonna just fix that later. But actually the edges did end up matching. And yeah, and for the width of the skirt, I just did the top the same width as the top pieces of the skirt. And then for the bottom of the skirt, it was just as wide as the fabric I had was. So this is the front piece. The hem looks pretty wonky, but it's okay because I'm going to fix that at the end. I sewed together one side of the skirt right sides together, making sure it was the same side as the top portion of the skirt so that the opening would be on the same side. I could now connect the top and bottom portions of the skirt together. And to do this, I made sure to match up all the seams, the ends, and the point at the center front, and just sewed across. And when I did this, I made sure to only sew on the right side of the top portion and not onto the facing. So this is what it looks like now. And now I am going to add a zipper on this side. So I have the zipper in, but I didn't sew on the facing, so now I can flip the facing over and sandwich the zipper like I'm doing here. And I'm gonna do that to both sides to give it a cleaner finish. And then here I decided to fold in the edge of the facing and pin it to the skirt right along the seam of where the top and bottom portions of the skirt connect, and then from the right side sewing down right on that seam. This is called the stitch in the ditch method, and this makes sure there are no raw edges inside the skirt, so it gives it a really nice clean finish with no raw edges poking out. And yeah, this takes a little bit of patience, but it really is worth it. I also sewed down the wrong side of the zipper so that it doesn't flip around. I top stitched all along the waistline so that the facing and the right side of the skirt stay on their respective sides and don't do anything weird. And then to fix the hem, I hung it on a mannequin and used my trusty scissors to snip where I thought was best to give it the hemline I wanted. And you want to remember that you can always cut more off, but you can't put fabric back. So slow and steady is the key here. Only cut off a little bit at a time until you get your desired length. Once I hemmed this part up, it was all finished. I'm pretty happy with how this skirt turned out. It's a different style than ones I currently have, so I think it's a nice change. So these were my two skirts that I made, and thank you so much for sticking to the end of the video. I really appreciate it, and I hope I'll see you again in the next
We just
video.
went to the cat
Bye!
shrine.
Yes, we did.
Yep, and we're headed for a cafe now.
Yay!
Yay!
But like,
You know what? This isn't so bad.
it's not that bad.